Hey guys, it's Victor, and I'm here to talk about Christopher Nolan's new movie, Dunkirk, a movie about the evacuation of Dunkirk during World War II. The thing about this movie is that Christopher Nolan actually gives us three perspectives in this film: the land perspective, the sea perspective, and the air perspective. Now, the thing about each perspective is that the pacing of time is different. We get a lot more time in the land perspective. We get a couple of days, I believe. And then for the sea perspective, we get a couple of hours, while in the air perspective, I believe we only get an hour or two. Now, this may lead to a little bit of confusion because there are time frames or time shifts, if you will, where you get a sense of deja vu because you feel like you've already seen a moment already happen. But in reality, it's because we're seeing it from a different perspective. Like, say, we see it in the land perspective and then we later revisit it in a different perspective, either sea or air. And I know some of you guys may be annoyed by that. Trust me, it took me a while, but it wasn't until after the film that I realized the brilliance of this type of technique that Christopher Nolan uses. Now, this is a PG-13 movie, which means that we won't be getting a lot of bloody scenes or gory scenes, no limbs falling off or flying off. And if you're looking for a movie like maybe a Hacksaw Ridge or a Platoon, something to that extent, you're probably not going to get it here in regards to violence. It's not a very graphic movie. That is not to say that there aren't any violent scenes in this movie. People do get shot, obviously, but unfortunately, we don't get any blood, hence the rating for PG 13. This movie is basically more about the story itself, and it's more not a character piece if you really think about it, more than a war film itself. The war just happens to be the setting in this story. Now, as with the performances themselves, I gotta say I was mostly impressed with Kenneth Branagh. Obviously, he's probably the best actor in this movie, quality wise. And every time I saw his facial expression when he sees another bomb come in, that just shows you the quality that he is. I thought Tom Hardy was great too in this movie. I thought he was pretty solid. I did have some issues though when he was talking in his mask because you kind of got that Bane feeling, because he actually does sound like Bane when he puts on the air mask while he's flying the plane. Then we have Mark Rylance, who was underrated, I think, in this film. His performance wasn't as exuberant or out there as the other people in this film, but I thought his subtlety was what made his performance all that much better to enjoy. Then you have the newcomer Fionn Whitehead, excuse me, who, well, I gotta say he was solid as well. He didn't really stand out for me in that sense, but he didn't hinder from the movie itself. He did his role and he was a solid performance, and I'm hoping to see more from him later on. Then we have Cillian Murphy, excuse me, and I gotta say I was a little underwhelmed by his performance, not because of the quality of the acting, but just I guess maybe the underuse of him. I was expecting a little more from his character per se, and ultimately in this film I felt a little bit unsatisfied with his role in this film. And then obviously you have Harry Styles, who I gotta say was overused. At the beginning, when we do see him, I was impressed actually with the way he was handling himself amongst the other actors. Him not being a traditional actor himself. But the more and more I saw of him, the more things I can nitpick from his performance. Granted, like I said, he's not a typical or traditional actor. So I guess if I am to judge him based on his inexperience, I thought he did a swell job, I guess. Now, one of the things I do want to point out in this film is the cinematography because it is amazing. Apparently, this film is done by Hoyt van Hoytema, excuse me, I don't know how to pronounce his name, unfortunately. And he also did the cinematography for Interstellar, and I actually quite liked Interstellar's cinematography, especially when they had the scenes in space. I thought that was amazing. And I must say, and I know this is too early to say, but I think this might be nominated for cinematography, at least based on the merits of the movie alone. I'd obviously have to see everything else that's out there, but I think based off this movie itself, I can say that maybe it'll get a nod. I don't think it'll win, but it might get a nod at least. And obviously, we have certain scenes in the film when you guys see it, or if you guys have seen it. The first time we see the beach, that was a beautifully shot take there. And I'm thinking it's partly due also to the fact that Christopher Nolan uses IMAX cameras. And then obviously, anytime we were up in the air and we could see the sea and the clouds, I think that was amazing. And granted, it also might be the fact that I believe they used actual planes to film those scenes. And obviously, we also get a point of view from the pilot's perspective. And I thought that was great as well. It was a nice little experience there, if you will. And the last thing I'm going to talk about basically is the score because I am a Hans Zimmer fanatic. I love his work, about a lot of his music. And I gotta say, this is probably my least favorite, albeit I'm still gonna buy it anyways. He does have a good use of the clock. During the film, we actually hear the clock a couple times as the movie progresses. And every time you hear it, you get a sense of urgency, which I'm assuming is what Hans Zimmer wants us to feel at that moment. Usually, there's a lot of action or suspense in those moments when he uses that clock theme, and I think he gives you that feeling perfectly. But I also felt that at times he used that trick a little too much for me, and it kind of waned on me, and it actually kind of got me bored and unsatisfied with the score overall. As for the film itself, if you guys are looking for something to see, this is definitely one to watch. It's definitely something that you guys should experience on the Dolby Cinema Theater. I know I did. And I was really looking forward to watching a horror film in that type of cinema because I was hoping to watch Hacksaw Ridge in it. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. But this, nonetheless, I think satisfied that need for me to watch a horror film in the Dolby Theater as well. The rating I'm going to give this movie is an 8.5 out of 10. Definitely watch it, guys. It is probably one of the better films that are out right now. The other one being probably Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, but that obviously is not as at the same level as this movie. Although I did quite enjoy that movie nonetheless. That's it for this video, guys. Until next week, see you all later.